Okay, I think we're live. We are
Okay.
we are going. I hear you. We're good, we're good this time. All right. I am happy to be streaming today with my good friend OliveTreeBear. This is my first live stream with someone, so we had a whole debacle to start off where I was trying to just figure out how to give him sound. But again, I guess like the purpose of these, right, for my channel, just to let you know, Olive Tree, and to also kind of level set about, when I'm streaming with people, what I'm trying to do. So when I first started writing books, I started writing because was watching shows and seeing stories that I wasn't thrilled with, right? I thought that the quality was not very good, and the people writing it were clearly had weird agendas and stuff. And overall, I was getting really critical, but I didn't want to become too critical and not be able to do the thing myself, right? And so I kind of want to talk to people. I've decided that this is kind of what I want to do is I want to highlight people who do it themselves successfully. And Olive Tree is the perfect example because, I mean, the guy is a professional musician, and I mean, in you meet a lot of musicians, but you don't meet a lot of professional ones. So I feel like he's the perfect person to kind of get some background on that. Also, we're going to provide some updates on where Olive Tree is at with bear music and releasing music in general. But first, how you doing, man? Good to have you on. Thanks for joining me. Oh God, I can't hear you
No, I'm
again.
just messing with you, man. I'm just
Oh,
messing with
you bastard, you Greek bastard.
you. Yeah, man. Yes, I was waiting to do that. Crack that little joke. Yeah, man. No,
Well,
it's really good. It's really good to be on, man. Thanks for giving me a voice, literally.
yeah,
So yeah, it's been crazy. Like the summer was so laid back, and come September, I just went deep into Babylonian music again.
yeah.
It's,
And tell us a little bit about that. So, I mean, as far as a lot of the Bears know, they don't really know know much.
yeah.
They don't know much about what's been going on. So let some of them know, like when it comes to Babylonian music, like what that means exactly versus where you were, before when you were having more time and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what it means to me, like what I've always wanted to do since I was like really young is be part of the storytelling. Like when you see a movie
Sure.
or an animation or anything, I was really, really inspired by the music,
Yeah.
really detailed and very descriptive kind of music. That was always my thing because I've got a wild imagination as well. And also, I'm classically trained. So initially, that was the plan. I had no concept that, what the system, the whole system is actually doing. But just the storytelling part of it was like really exciting for me. So um, that's what I got good at doing. And at the same time, I was like working in studios, getting better knowledge of producing music. So I was like learning to write music and to produce music. And at some point, I realized that I'm quite good at popular sounding music, which I never even thought I would do. I kind of snowed the idea of doing anything like basic with four chords. It's like, yeah, four chords. I want to do a huge masterpiece
A
that people
sequence of
will.
chords like on Walk of One where it just trails up all
Oh
the
my God, yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah. That's intense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We got away with it. We got away with that one. Yeah.
so you started out with more like of a bigger vision then. Like you started out with the you know, movie extravagant movie soundtrack kind of vision, and then
Yeah.
realized you were pretty good at the pop is what you're saying.
Yeah, it just I naturally toned it down because I thought if I want to be a John Williams or what's the other guy's name, Jerry Goldsmith or these rambling names, I would have to be basically located in Los Angeles, and like back then that wasn't. Well, I suppose I could have done it, but I was like, at the same time, I had this kind of weird angst. It's like that place is like really weird. There's a weird vibe to it, but
Yeah.
I still want to get into it, but once I did my first couple of pop songs, then the phone just rang and rang and rang, and I didn't even chase it myself. It just happened. It went on autopilot. So like, more, by the way, like I mean, I'm in Greece, so like the market is like very small, and it's easy to get to know people. It's much easier, and it's a smaller market, and it's a smaller population. Everything's like smaller scale anyway.
Yeah. And
So yeah,
when you say you released your first pop songs and and it caught on, like what kind of pop, like I guess I would say, how do I want to ask this question? Where did you release them, I guess? And how did they get out there? How did people start hearing them? Was it just
Hmm.
organic kind of growth, or did you send it to someone in particular? How did that happen?
Yeah, kind of. Like I was living in London at the time, and when I got back to Greece, I won't say by chance because I mean I think we've all kind of realized by now that nothing really happens by chance. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you know, it's a set of choices, it's destiny, it's many things that play into this. But I kind of hooked up with this well-known composer here in Greece that already does songwriting for singers that don't write their own stuff, like all kinds of. What am I supposed to be looking at? You, I'm just. It's like weird.
I don't
Anyway,
know. I don't know what you
sorry.
see. This is the thing. I'm still learning this, so like you tell me what you see and I'll tell you what to look at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, if I look into the microphone, does it look like more personal, like it's coming out? So anyway,
I guess if you look straight there, then people will see your like
yeah,
your eyes and your luscious hair, and they'll kind of get a little dizzy. But
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, so
yeah. So I mean,
you
yeah,
released
I was his
the song.
assistant.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was his right hand when it comes to programming, drums, and all kinds of instruments and synths. Because mind you, I was like really well. I was introduced at an extremely young age to analog synthesizers and things like that. So uh, due to my dad and everything being a musician,
yeah,
so like I made his life kind of easier in certain respects, and we had a 1 year contract with the opportunity to maybe renew it. So when the time came to renew it, we didn't actually renew it because it wasn't in the clause. It wasn't like a auto renewal thing. And after those 12 months, I started noticing all kinds of grabbly things going on, especially when it came down to payments. It's like I wasn't exactly receiving what we had arranged. And
yeah,
we had these small little clauses. Yeah, that we're talking about bonuses depending on how much I invest myself in each project. And me and the family I was living with at the time, we all felt like I'm putting in like a huge percentage of my efforts and time and talent and everything to that. So long story short, we broke that contract, and then I joined the army because in Greece you have to join the army for a few months, and you can always postpone it. But
hmm
I thought, since this went south, I suppose I'll just join the army for a few months and get it done with. So like when I was in the army, serving the army, I would get a few phone calls from singers. It's like, hey, dude, you used to be with so and so, didn't you? And I'm like, yeah. Well, they said, we would like you to listen to a few tracks and maybe you can produce them. I'm like, okay. And if you have any of your own, maybe that would interest us as well. I said, well, yeah, I write orchestral drum and bass with really songs. No, they said, no, no, we want your pop touch. I'm like, my pop touch, because I had never written my own music back then.
yeah,
So I attempted to write a song like in the format that we do. Like I wrote the melody, I wrote down the chords, I gave it to a lyricist, and boom, they liked it. And they wanted more and more and more and more. And then from word of mouth, partially because some of them got very popular, and partially because they knew my name from collaborating with that songwriter. It just went on autopilot ever since. And yeah,
sure.
that's it.
That's awesome. I mean, you had like the classic kind of master apprentice situation. It seems like. I mean, with that guy
Mm.
that you said it was in England, right? Um, that's a pretty. I mean, a pretty ideal situation. But you said to me, you might have just said it just now. I don't remember, but you said to me like you went and agreed to just work with him for free, right? You kind of just approached him and you were like, I just want to be in your studio or whatever, learning from you.
Yeah, that's a different studio and
Oh,
it's for a
okay.
different thing. So like I was just explaining like my pop profile kind of thing. But before that, in London, I actually there was one studio close to my neighborhood, and I literally walked through the gate and I went in and I said, can I? Because I heard the metronome. I was walking outside and I could hear tick 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 tick, and I'm like, there's a studio in there, man. So I went there for a couple of weeks, and then I spent some time in another studio in the other side of London. So I would travel like a couple of hours to get there. And yeah, basically I did it for free. Yeah, I helped this guy out. He helped me with tons of musical gravy and production gravy at the time. So I was like well equipped. I had like plenty of musical technological gravy to come back to Greece where I am now. So yeah, the free one was in London, and when I came to Greece, I just worked with this well-known pop music guy.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the composer in London was like mostly documentaries and things like that. Yeah.
And so, with now that you're in the pop music, do you is that kind of like where you like to be going forward, or do you still dream of the the big production type movie type things?
Well, I mean, you know what? The more you go down all these rabbit holes and you see how corruption or immorality has kind of seeped into all aspects of society, I've become more and more skeptical about what each film project could potentially do damage-wise to the viewers. So I'm always like skeptical about, do I want to go full on and do, for example, a huge production for something like, I don't know, a Marvel movie, for example, or for I don't know, you name it. I can't think from the top of my head now, but I mean, I'm always skeptical about how much do I want to feed that kind of machine. But at the same time, I'm always thinking that, you know what, it's assisting the storytelling. So if I don't do it, someone else will do it, and so I'm kind of right in between there. So if someone says to me, for example, dude, I really like the way you score music, and I would like you to do, I don't know, Satan's Children number 33 or whatever. I, I would, I would have to make up some kind of excuse because I mean, I don't
Satan's
like,
Children number 33. That's awesome.
you know what I mean, some kind of movie or some series or something. I'd be like super. It's like I'll have to turn this down because I would make an excuse that I'm super busy or something. But if someone
Yeah.
says we're going to do something that my radar hasn't picked up as immoral or wrong or grabbly, I'll probably say yeah, yeah,
Gotcha. And
yeah. I
so,
love it. Yeah.
yeah, and so where you're at now, right? So, we kind of talked about how you got to your background, a little bit more about your background, and I guess we'll kind of work our way forward in time. So, when the way that me and Olive Tree met, right? The
Mm.
timeline that I know of of Olive Tree, because some people know it. I know we have Sharon here. What's up, Sharon? Schizo Radio. How you
Hey,
guys doing?
Sharon.
Sharon, I'd give you the wrench, but I honestly don't know how. I'm gonna have to figure that out next time. I learned, like, we already had a stream we had to delete because I couldn't even get sound for Olive Tree. So I'm like doing one step at a time. My goal, I've said this since I started streaming. My goal is to improve one feature every time. So this time it was to be able to stream with someone and also to have this little scroll bar at the bottom. So I've got two actually today, and I'm proud of that. And I'll figure out the wrench next time. But yeah. So the way me and Olive Tree met, and some people might know this, but some people might not. But back in, I think it was 2020, like in the spring maybe of 2020, I had posted a sea shanty song that I had done for my books that my friend kind of inspired me to do because he asked me to do one for him. And I had no kind of involvement in the bear community at all. I mean, at the time, I was a contributor and I commented on things, so I guess I had some, but I didn't really know anyone. And then, but Olive Tree happened to be following me. I don't know why. Maybe it was because of a comment or something I left, and heard the sea shanty song, and he suggested that we do one for the Bears. And I was like on board because like I said, my kind of whole purpose here, and since I really started writing, was to just create as much as I can, no matter whether that's music or books or whatever. And so I said yeah, and I hadn't even heard anything by Olive Tree yet. I didn't know the guy. I didn't know that I was working with like a world class producer who people seek out while he's in the army. Like somebody that they heard of and go that far. So like you said, things happen for a reason, and I wrote about this in my most recent submission to Barataria Times magazine, or maybe it was like my first submission, where it's like the amount of things that had to happen, the amount of the things that I had to say yes to in order to get to the point where you reached out to me and we make that song and then we release the song and then people actually know who I am. It's crazy. Everything happens for a reason, clearly. But we connected. We started writing that song, and at the time, I talked about this on my last stream a little bit, but at the time, like, no one, there wasn't much. It was harder to get people involved, for sure. It was a lot harder, but we just kind of kept at it, and we made that song, and then we made a whole bunch of other songs, and it was just so much fun. And now we have like this whole list, and so we released the sea shanty, I think, in the fall of 2020, and then a couple other songs in the fall of 2020, and to a reception that I've never experienced for anything. Like the Bears are just the best people ever, and I just got a message from I don't even remember what his handle is on Instagram. One of the Barra guys from Ireland, and he was saying that they want to use my tribe for their next meetup or something. And it's just like every day it's just this onslaught of love, and it's awesome. But since the last release, which was My Tribe, people I think want to know where you've been, right? Because there's been a lot of speculation. I know that Yogi has suggested a possible theory that you were abducted by gypsies. so let's let the people know next what your year has been like this year, what you've been so busy with, and how you've been still crushing this in your absence.
Well, man. Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting ride because I lived in a beautiful town of where it's the land of the olives, Kalamata, and that's where I picked the OliveTreeBear name initially. And I'm still surrounded by olives, by the way, because I mean Greece is like full of olive trees. So um, back then, I was like in a situation where I wasn't really busy with work. I was like just looking into gravy, looking into theories, mudflood this, the other, I was looking into everything, and then I found the bears, and I'm like, yeah, that's what that was missing,
Before,
the
just
whole
a second,
moral
just
aspect
before we
of it.
keep going, I
Yeah,
just want I just
yeah.
want to clarify, like, when you say you weren't busy with work, like, what was your work at the, like, what kind of music were you making that you would call work at the time that you were actually making money on? Just so people know,
Well,
like what you do day to day,
yeah.
or were doing day to day at that time.
Well, it's pop music, I suppose. It's pretty similar to the stuff that the Bears have heard from me, but I would say maybe more rhythmical and not necessarily logos driven. But I mean, if you listen to my pop stuff, you can tell that, hey, dude, there's a bit of Olive Tree Bear in there. You can actually tell, but it's like radio friendly pop music for Greek artists. Many of them are spoken in Greek, in the Greek language.
So it's like
And
people
because of the
who make requests of you. Then I get, is that right? Is it like people who are hiring you to to produce their songs? I guess, or is it?
usually, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They either ask for a song. It's like, I'm looking for a love song or a ballad. I'm looking for something like this. I know it's kind of strange for many people, but in the pop industry world, I don't know the percentage, but like a high percentage of performers don't actually write their own stuff. Uh, so yeah, so I'll either be the person producing it, aka like setting up the whole arrangement of how it's going to be done based on just a guitar and a top line, or I just create something out of thin air. just collaborate with someone for the lyrics and write a love song or something, whatever, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, so
And
that
so
was that yeah, that's what I
yes.
was doing steadily until Rona came along. And like when Rona came along, I'm like, oh well, I'm having a nice long break. I'm enjoying this. Uh, and like I was just spending my savings and everything. And months went on until back to where like I discovered the Bears sometime in 2020. It's like I want to be part of this community, but I just want to give something. I don't want to absorb. I don't want to just absorb because all my life I'm just absorbing stuff, and this is like the only dude that's um, encouraging community. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful, man. And I made my first Instagram account, and weeks and months went by, and I would check my phone, and it's like, oh, the whole industry is dead at the moment. Everyone is like really skeptical and worried about what to release, if they release anything. It's like many singers were like, you know what? What's the point of even releasing music if I'm not going to go on tour? I'm not going to even do a gig or anything, and it's the end of the world, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, shit, man, this is the best time ever. So you and I started doing stuff, and I'm like, yeah, man, it's a smaller scale than I'm used to because like many of the tracks that I do have millions of views, but millions of normie views, if you know what I mean. So they don't
Yeah.
fully appreciate it. They just mostly listen to it because it's from an artist that they kind of vibe with or they kind of like. Uh, so
Sure.
it's mostly due to the performer, not necessarily because it's me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's been a
and
completely different
obviously,
reception because of that like part of it. It's like people
yeah,
actually like I've seen comments where people are like, oh, I just listened to this song and I just listened to this song, a silly game, and then I met like the girl I'm dating, and it's like,
I
and
saw
that's
that's
just the
beautiful,
coolest
man.
thing ever. I was just brings a smile to my face. But yeah,
Yeah.
Schizo Radio, how's it going with the Rage Foo Fighter backs?
Hey,
Yeah,
I can't see who's in here. Yeah, yeah. I'll have to use my other phone.
yes.
By the way, just
Go ahead.
one last point. One last point about the the difference in not demographic. What's the word I'm looking for? The different size of pop songs. So like when a pop song becomes like an international hit, and you got like 26,000 comments underneath a video.
Yeah,
I must say that for the Olive Tree Bear project, I literally value every single comment that's under there because people have really absorbed the music. They're not coming for the groove or they're not coming for, it's a nice little catchy thing. Like people legitimately post things that are completely relevant and they do get it. And, the kind of, I don't know, man, the kind of respect I have for that is like completely different than my normie kind of music.
sure. Yeah, it's like the kind of
Yeah.
music that affects your life because you actually maybe it's partly because the creator of it is what's the word accessible to you, like you could talk, like they could talk to you,
And
right?
that, yeah.
Like
And that, yeah.
and so there's that's part of it, and then the other part of it, is like the reason why you're writing it is to honor God, right? So you're having that, you can have that impact on people when you're
Hmm.
creating for that reason. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm just gonna address these comments really quick, and then we'll go
Yeah.
back into where you were this past year, that kind of where things kind of
Pretty much, yeah.
changed a little bit. So
Hmm.
Schizo says, "How's it going with Rage?" So we have we're gonna get to like what's next for OliveTreeBear in a second. With the Vax diss track, that's one of just like
Hmm.
a super long list of songs. So and the more and more people that have gotten into Olive Tree's chat, for example,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
there's so many people now that that can be part of the collaborations and have been. And so Schizo, you're like, rap skills are insane. So like you'll be
That was crazy what
you'll be
happened to
on one
me.
of the
Yeah,
tracks at some point. And then board game,
for
welcome
sure.
board game. Yeah, no, board game is on board
Even
with
is
the
not.
board game's on board with the gypsies theory. I,
I might be a clone. You didn't check my earlobes, right? I might be a clone.
yeah. Do you have like a scar right here, right behind your? Um,
Well, I've hidden it. Well, that's why I have the hair, cover it.
yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's get to your story about what happened. We all know you were abducted by gypsies, but
Yeah.
let's get to your story about what changed for you in the past year, right? Like, because you've been extremely
Oh yeah,
busy,
yeah,
and being busy is fantastic. I got to say, like, I go through periods of my life where I am just going all the time, and I would say that last year, when I was writing like two books at once, we were making music more frequently, and it was just one of those
yeah,
times where it's kind of overwhelming, but then at the same time, once it ends, you get in a period of like feeling like you're just doing nothing, like you're being so lazy. But then but that period's nice too to an extent because you don't have the same kind of going all the time mentality and you're not stressing quite as much. But you for the
yeah.
past, it seems like I don't know, 6 to 8 months have been going through one of those periods where it's just all productive all the time. And so tell us about that. What kind of projects were you working on? Tell us about Billion and some of the other things that have been keeping you busy.
Yeah. Well, out of the several months, no, I'll start from the beginning. Well, first of all, I think now that I look back, it's for the better. But I mean, I broke up with the lady that I was with, and that was a very serious decision for me to make. It wasn't the easiest thing ever. And at the time when I was producing all this music, um, we were kind of living together, and I was, what's the word I'm looking for? I was just going with the flow of what I was doing, but at some point, first of all, I started running out of cash, as you do when you don't work for like more than half a year. And I thought, okay, maybe I should start contacting some of the companies that I've already worked with and see what they're doing. So I called them, and they said, "Yeah, do you have any kind of trap music that talks about shaking asses and drug culture and things like that?" I'm like, No. So then I knocked on the other doors and I'm like, okay, something's wrong here, man. I mean, there's like something changed in the world. And I thought I would just go back into it, just like straight back into it. And at the same time, my relationship was kind of crumbling. And at the same time, I was like knocking on all these doors. And then I started distancing myself from the bear community because I'm like, wait a minute. Nothing wrong with the bear community. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I really need to figure out what's going on because it's like I've done this before where I'm just like surviving on savings and things work out in the end, but nothing was working out. I'm like, okay, so I have to do something. And
This year in
so,
particular, for like, I think that
yeah,
financially, especially, it's been intense. I mean, it seems like
yeah,
prices are going up everywhere, so it's for everyone. I guess it's just been financially for me at times it's been stressful too. So yeah,
yeah. So, yeah,
but
I mean, besides the abduction, because there was a river and then I just ran away, I went through the river. I survived.
back to
Yeah.
the abduction by the gypsies.
So, So yeah, it got a bit crazy, and I'm like, dude, I really need to focus because I'm all over the place at the moment. Not all over the place, but I mean, I don't have any income. So I remember asking you and the guys at Unbearables, it's like, I really appreciate what's going on, but is there a way to kind of monetize this or kind of promote it more or bring it to a similar level of my Babylonian stuff? Because okay, the My Tribe is super Bertarian and the Bertaria Shanty. There's a couple of tracks which are like blatantly for the Bears, and there's a few others which are, if marketed correctly, they could be like really, out there, well-known tracks.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, none of us are prepared to on the same level do marketing as the big boys do. So I'm like, okay, okay, okay. First things first. So I left my hometown, and for the most of the summer I didn't do any music, so I wasn't like super busy all the time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the first couple of months, I was not busy at all. I was just like living the beach life as you do in Greece. Uh,
We see it on your
must
stories
be
all the
nice.
time. Must be freaking nice.
Yeah, those stories, the summer stories are like full on the beach all the time, like partying, going out, like hiking, and then chilling on the beach, and then Joe from Joker's Redemption came over with his girlfriend from Germany,
Yeah.
um, and that was a really nice, nice to see him in person and everything.
How'd you meet him originally
So,
again?
think through Telegram, yeah, through the
Telegram.
Ursa Europa group, yeah,
Nice.
yeah, that was really cool. It was really cool. And we kind of vibed from the very beginning. So long story short, the summer went by, and I'm like, okay, now I'm like completely, you spent all my savings.
Yeah.
So I came to Athens. I came back to Athens, and with a very good friend of mine that I had met when I first went to Kalamata, we've always been brainstorming the possibility of collaborating on many levels. So like, I'm really good at what I do, but I'm not very good at marketing myself. And I'm like, ah, you would be useful in so many ways. So his wife is like super supportive and helpful, and she has all kinds of connections, and we've always been discussing about building a studio, a really high quality studio, and all that. And at the same time, I got a few phone calls. Thank goodness, thank God, actually, not goodness, God, in September,
Thank the
and I
universe.
got contracted. Yeah, yeah, I got contracted to do a few things, a few tracks, and I'm like, okay, I'll either use this money to carry on my beach life, or I'll start investing some of it because, okay, if I'm going to work with this guy and make it happen, I got to get a bit more serious. And at the same time, I had you and other bears asking, dude, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm okay. I'm getting through this, but I just need to sort things out first. And yeah, it's at a point where I've sorted things out. We have a great like collab going on, and many things I leave on autopilot because he does the communicating, he does like the deals and everything, and I'm just carrying on creating music. And now that I'm back to speed, I'm like, dude, the Bears. I haven't given anything back, you know. And I mean, there's been like generous subscribe star followers. I've got all these other people that love what I've been doing all this time. But I mean, I never fully expressed anything through my Instagram. I never really came out and said, "Hey guys, look, I'm really sorry," or anything.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you don't have anything to
I
be
just,
sorry about. I mean, I
yeah, I
mean,
mean, not sorry, but I
yeah.
mean, I know what it's like when someone is consistent, and then all of a sudden it's like the consistency is gone. It's like he's probably going through something, or he's abducted by gypsies, or yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So that's
I'm really glad you brought that part of it up, the the financial part and the marketing part,
yeah,
because that's kind of something that is part of it. It's really hard to build build up a reputation, right?
yeah.
And I only noticed this for the first time when we started working together, where I had been already writing books for like maybe 5 years or so, and but I wasn't really marketing them, and it was really just a hobby for me. I mean, because I have a full-time job, and I make my money from my full-time job, so I'm not dependent on the books at all. And the idea
Hmm.
that I would have made any money at all from them was just kind of like this. Maybe that'll happen at some point, but I wasn't really doing it for that. I was just kind of doing it for me. And so you were in kind of the opposite situation where
Hmm.
you have always been pursuing music. Like music has always been the only thing, it seems like, that you have really stuck with and said, this is what I'm going to do. And so those are kind of
Hmm.
like I guess the two ways that a person can go about it. But at the same time, you need the marketing, you need to build up a reputation over time, and it seems like Bill, the guy that you've been working with is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
such a great partner for that, because he is more of that than like the music even. Like he, according to what you've told me, right, like is a guy who wants to be a DJ, and you're like the perfect person for him to work with, because he, you know, he's a lot more of the business savvy and a lot more of the marketing savvy and knows a lot of people.
yeah, yeah.
And so you get to just do the producer stuff, while you know he goes out and does all the deals. And so you kind of need like a balance like that when you make anything. You know, I know a lot of people who, or having played music since I was in high school. You know, most people who play music think I just need to make a song, and it's gonna be the greatest song ever, and someone's gonna hear it, and then I'm gonna, you know, make all this money. And it just does not work like that. You know, it doesn't even almost work like that. You really need to build up a reputation over time, and
Hmm.
that's what I'm so grateful to you for. Is I feel like I feel like I wasn't getting my name out there in any way, like at
Hmm.
all, and it just because it just wasn't a focus for me at the time. But the more that you know you work, the more that you just create with people, the more that you collaborate with people on anything, the more like that happens. And I've noticed a difference already with you know, whether it be selling more books, or you know, even just having more people reach out to you for even help. You know, like over the past like couple months, I've helped Woodshop edit his book. I've helped people like write lyrics for songs, and it's just even that difference, right? Even just someone like looking to you as somebody that isn't some kind of authority or can like help with something is
Hmm.
marketing it to me, right? You build up a reputation, and that's what it seems like Bill has done in the area of, you know, business, where it's just over
Yeah.
time he just got to know a lot of people. And you said that he was, what was he doing? You didn't say it on this stream, I don't think. Maybe you did, but I don't think you did. Where he was working for someone also at like you said, it wasn't a restaurant, was it? He just got to know a lot of people somewhere. You told me on the phone the other day, I think, that he was like
Yeah, I've
working.
told you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've told you all that on the phone. Yeah. Well, the cool thing is that he works for a TV station, and he does the sound editing, sound production, and he's like in the audio engineering department of. He even overlooks the whole thing when it comes to placing the actual microphones, all the way when it goes up to the studio for sound checking and everything.
Yeah.
So he gets to meet a lot of people through that, and at the same time, I don't. Yeah, I can give all this, I suppose. So at the same time, he has a wedding venue. So like he gets to interact a lot, and he gets to know the business side of things and how to speak to people and when to bring up certain topics and when the timing is right to talk about the economics, which is something that I'm not so good at.
Yeah.
Um, and to be honest, I don't want to go too deep into that because I
Yeah, that's
feel
fine.
that it sucks out energy that I could be putting into writing or producing or just even contemplating my day-to-day life that will bring me in a position to be able to compose such music. So,
Sure. Yeah, but
uh,
but it's important. Yeah, that's just important to understand like that side of
yeah,
I like, or to at least, or to partner with someone who does understand that side of it too,
yeah,
right? I mean,
he
it's
does. Thank goodness. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's really cool. He's
for
really
any
cool.
creator, that's like super key. And also like
Mm.
board game brings up a good point. He said he, you know, dropped almost 10K on his videography business. You have to invest also. That's another thing, is like,
Yeah,
yeah, whether it's in your case like in better equipment, right? Better
yeah.
you know, mixing equipment or whatever. Um, wedding venues are my bread and butter for wedding films. Yeah. I don't know if I'm reading that wrong. Yeah, that makes sense.
I
But
didn't see what was it. Yeah.
he said wedding venues are my bread and butter for wedding films. I would imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, he's so right about investing the money too, because like I had to invest in editors when I first, you know, started, especially just to kind of understand what the process, like what a book is supposed to look like and everything. And you know, in your case, like you said, you guys invested in a studio, but
Hmm.
Yeah, so you guys have been busy making a lot of music. What kind of music exactly? Because you were making music for him as a DJ, and then you were also making music for other people, right? You were still helping people produce, but like in your studio and through connections that he was kind of providing, right?
Yeah. Well, the really cool thing being in this part of Athens is that um, it's a really hot area when it comes to art and everything. So, like many of the uh, record labels and singers and creators of music happen to be in this area of Greece,
Yeah,
or this area of Athens where I moved to, and so I'm doing what I used to do, but I'm doing it much easier because I'm not this OliveTreeBear guy who is like far out there. He's like I'm literally in the neighborhood. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So, and from word of mouth, it's getting out there, and it's making it super convenient for me. And my partner, my music partner, he's also like super helpful in attracting and bringing people in and kind of reminding them that we're right here and we're accessible. Whereas before, the only way you could reach me was like through only I mean through the phone or the internet because I was just all over the place.
yeah,
Uh, so what was the question again? How? Oh yeah, what kind of music? Yeah. So I'm doing the same old basically. Now that there's like more of a momentum after the weirdness of the Rona. I mean, we're in a different kind of weirdness now, but at least people are DJing, singers are singing, clubs are working and things like that. So I'm doing kind of the same music, and we've also made a side project with the guy, and we've created out of thin air a persona that suits his needs mostly, which is like to go out there and just pump music, really high intensity EDM music, which is something I'm very familiar with. I've produced many EDM bangers in the past, and I've ghostwritten, I've co-produced many quite big hits. So I'm very familiar with this pumpy, pumpy, four on the floor kind of thing. I don't do it through the bear community because it's too trancy, it's too like brainy. Where I do like with our stuff, I do mostly things that are from the heart. But but yeah, we've created this side project which is basically a duo, just the two of us.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, he has a lot of input in those projects, but not necessarily in the others. Not as much, at least.
And so
And he
that's
does help
billion, right?
coordinate and
That's billion.
yeah, it's called
Yeah, yeah,
Billion. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we named it as such, and yeah, it's like basically four on the floor festival style Tomorrowland kind of ultra festival type music.
And you
Um,
guys have done some live stuff, right? Do you have anything, or have you this summer? Did you do live shows? I know you did a thing on a boat. You were going on yachts. That looked pretty cool.
yeah, we did a couple of things on a very small yacht, which was loaded with people, dangerously loaded with people. But I don't consider that really a gig. It was just like mostly friend. Yeah, we did get to meet many people, but yeah, I wouldn't say we planned it very, very well because my whole situation of moving and changing my whole lifestyle and trying to figure out where to live. I didn't even have a house at the time. Like I was staying at the guy's house. He had like
Hmm.
a spare bedroom, like a master bedroom with his own thing going on. And by the time I found a house, we were trying to figure out how to set up the studio, make it work properly, generate, get lots of people to come and visit the studio and kind of remind them of what we're doing. And at the same time, um, yeah, I was just figuring out my shit basically. So it took a bit of time to figure out how to do gigs because if you're nobody, they don't want you to do gigs really. I mean, if you're not known for something, what kind of a gig will you do? And especially
Yeah,
after the whole Rona, there's so much competition. So we said, yeah, okay, well, we've done the first steps, and let's just kind of chill out a little bit, and we'll figure it out come September, October. So we're in that phase now where we've got one single out there which went quite okay considering we didn't push it in any way. And we've got a new remix coming out early in November. I'm not sure when exactly, maybe the 7th or 8th. I don't remember. And then we have an original track. So we're kind of building momentum and seeing, just gain the listeners' trust and the club owners' trust to deliver. Basically, just with one track, we didn't manage to do gigs, but it's all good. It's all good.
Gotcha. And so yeah, so now you're in this place where you have more of the financial situation a little figured out. So what is next for Olive Tree Bear?
Dude, man, there's so much. I mean, you mentioned earlier that we have a crazy pipeline of tracks. I mean, many of them are in demo form. It's just like marking what the song is about and like a rough idea of what the production is going to sound like.
Yeah.
About I say we because it's mostly you and I, isn't it? I mean, the whole whole Olive Tree Bear is like a few instrumentals, okay, granted, which is like um, various sides of me that people haven't heard, like the trippy side, the contemplative side, the more nostalgic. But when it comes to songwriting, there's so much we want to get out there, and so many things we've just left on hold.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we spoke the other day, and we thought that a really cool, I wouldn't say gimmicky thing, but it's a really interesting thing to listen to is our track, the Full Squire. What that sounds like if you strip away every instrument and you just leave the vocals. I think it sounds really, I don't know, just the a cappella version sounds really inspiring.
And
So
let's just
yeah,
talk about this now. I mean, it's going to come up in the video. Like people will see it in the video. Do you know when you're going to release that? Is it going to be like this week or next week? Because you
well, I
were
don't know. I mean,
Yeah, because
it's
you were
it's
planning
already
on
produced.
what we talked about. Was possibly releasing that and then releasing your next original song sometime
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
next maybe week or two or whatever. Um, that one's I won't even say the name of it. I don't know if you want to be uh, just be secretive about it. But the what I do want to talk about now is like with that acapella one.
Yeah.
And people might remember the Fool's Choir is kind of one of the first ones it's maybe the second one we released, so maybe people don't have it off the top of their head, even though it's got the most views out of all of them on YouTube. But the craziest thing to me was when I was watching the video that you did with the acapella version of it, is that after the chorus,
Mhm.
there's this riff, right? It's like, and you told me that riff is entirely your voice, but just with a ton of effects. And that's the craziest thing. That's the craziest thing ever to me. Like, tell us a little bit about that. Like, how do you choose to either do your voice versus an instrument? Like, how do you kind of figure that out? Which direction you want to go with that?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was meant to be a surprise, but never mind.
But well, I
So
mean, I guess like this in this place, right?
yeah, no, it doesn't
One,
matter.
my channel's small, and two, you can give more background on it, right? I mean, people are gonna see
Yeah,
that, and yeah, go ahead.
well, I mean, because I've been doing sound design my entire life, because like I started composing, and then when I was producing, I always had certain goals that I put to myself. It's like, I want to make that sound from the Prodigy. How did they do it? Or I want to do that kind of effect. How do you get around making a effects chain of like all the different effects you need to create that result? And at many times when I'm writing a song or the whole structure of the song, I'm like, okay, so you got a chorus and a build up, and then the verse and a chorus, and then you want to kind of, a kind of release. And
Yeah,
in my mind, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have an awkward kind of guitar going, and I kind of, okay, let me just sing it into the microphone. So I did that, and because it sounds like kind of stupid with my voice, I'm like, okay, I might as well make it sound like a guitar, put some drive, distortion, and all kinds of delays and reverb to it to kind of get it as I want. And then change the formants and like auto tune the hell out of it, so it doesn't even sound like a normal voice. It sounds like a robotic kind of awkward thing. And I've done this many times in the past, but I never do it consciously. I never say, "Yeah, man, I'm going to do a track with my voice as the riff." I never think about it that way. I'm just like, I
It's
usually
more
want to mark it, just
necessity
mark
kind of
that
thing.
part. Yeah, yeah. And then, if I think it's cool, and you and a few others say, "Hey, man, that sounding really cool," and nobody even addresses the fact that it's my voice, it's like if it sticks, it sticks. If it works.
That's
So
hilarious. No,
that's long story short. Short
yeah,
story
that's
long.
really cool. I mean, it's like you get that. That's really interesting that it kind of came out of necessity, like I said, where you were struggling to or trying to figure out how to mimic something, and it's just it's just fascinating because like to some extent, right? One of the things I was thinking in you posted a video and someone in the comments had asked like, what do you use to produce or whatever, what like tech, and when they wrote that, I was just thinking you could probably make a lot of money with like a how to course on what you do, but to some extent your
Hmm.
experience because you've been doing it for so long is just like you can't just teach all of it, right? I mean, that there's
Yeah,
an element to it where you are so you've put in so much time and you've gotten so much experience build up that there's a degree of it that's just talent and you can't replace the experience. So, um, but I do think that you'd make a lot of money if you did if you did like a how do I
yeah.
do this type of thing.
I've been approached by young producers here in Greece many times that they want to find out how I do my EDM music, my dance music,
Yeah,
or more housey electronic music. They're like really curious, how do I manage to get the kind of sound that I do? And well, to be honest, it really boils down to what are your elements,
yeah,
Like, have you got a good enough bass drum and a good enough synth and a good enough lead vocal to get your message across? So if not, then you could edit the hell out of it and just kind of feel your way through mixing it. But it's all such a intuitive thing when I'm doing each track. So I don't have the same recipe for each track. You know what I mean? So it would be very difficult for me to structure a set of lectures, I suppose, and tutorials on showing the whole process because, well, because I don't have the kind of teaching,
yeah.
academic way of doing things. I'm always like, I do very unorthodox things to, to get results, like I did with this track. And
I guess it'd be the kind of
one
thing
way I
where
would,
someone would have to like apprentice with you, right? Where you'd have to be like
yeah,
they'd have to do it right next to you.
yeah, they would have to do it like that because I've thought about this so many times. Like people reach out to me on Instagram, not on my Bear account, on the other one, because they're like, dude, you should do like uh, a video or a how to, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, you know. But I've talked with my partner, and I've talked with this other studio as well that have many young producers coming in, and they actually want that. So it's on the table that maybe I will have a very, very small group. And I don't know what the number will be. Maybe like up to three. I wouldn't go for much more. Maybe ideally it should be one, one
Hmm.
person, one apprentice, one, you know. Uh, so yeah, I'm looking into that. Not for the money necessarily, but because I don't want to be the guy that utilizes the technique forever, because I've been doing this for like 20 years now, and just clicking away on a mouse and on a keyboard and playing with synths is really cool. But at some point, I want to see what else there is to life,
Yeah.
and what else there is to the creative side of me, because it's served me well. I'm very thankful. But I'm growing older. My eyesight is deteriorating. I can't picture myself clicking away on a mouse forever. And it would be good to hand down what I already have to the next generations, which have like crazy momentum and like talent and all that. So I'm definitely going to do it, but maybe not on an online way. I'm going to do it like a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-3 maximum
Yeah.
basis. Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I assume, I mean, I think I've seen you play instruments, but you play and you play a bunch of instruments too, right? Are you mostly
Not a bunch.
not a
Not a bunch.
bunch?
I'm classically trained on the piano.
Okay.
Um, so I'm okay with keyboards. Well, I've got a sense of rhythm, I suppose. I used to be a drummer in a couple of bands, but
Yeah.
not a good drummer. You know what I mean? I wasn't like a good drummer. Most of the most of the drumming was in my imagination, but I wasn't like super practiced and like with a good wrist and everything. I was like a bit clumsy and a bit bangy bangy. I was just hitting the drums with rhythm, which isn't really drumming, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
yeah, basically I would say piano. I don't play a bunch of instruments. I know how to play the guitar, like just basic chords. I know the range of most of the instruments of like a symphonic orchestra, and but yeah, I can't really play much.
Do you prefer to do you prefer the production side over playing music on an instrument? Like if it's just in your, you know, if
Yeah.
you're just hanging out. Yeah.
Oh, Schizo Radio says influences. Yeah, we'll talk about that because it's like really interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of influences I have? It's like wild. What kind of influences I have? Um, well, because I always wanted to be a composer for like, you know, even back in the days of ET and Close Encounters, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that as well, you know. Uh, so I've always been on the writing side, not so much the performing side.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I was like with a band or like playing as a DJ, it was really awesome and everything, but I couldn't wait to finish the gig and go back home and back to the creative side of it. Yeah, so I'm mostly a productive musician.
Gotcha. And then with influences, I
Yeah,
mean, we could ask that. We could talk about that next, since Schizo is asking.
yeah. Yeah.
I know you mentioned one earlier. What was his name? I think it was
John Williams.
John Williams. Yeah. So
John Williams is the composer that's written most of the movies you even know about. You know,
yeah, I
he's
think you
done
said
like
Lion King, or no? I think
I,
you
no, I don't think
no.
so. I don't think Lion King. He's done like E.T. He's done like the Star Wars, Superman, Jaws. Um, he's been like Steven Spielberg's
Mhm.
favorite. So like most of Steven Spielberg's movies, he's written the music. Uh,
Hopefully, he wasn't on the set of that one movie.
oh goodness me, no. Yeah, I don't know. He looks like a really humble guy. I mean, nothing. You know, he's like completely different. It's just the collaboration they have. I mean, I think that Steven Spielberg really admires his musical skills, and that's it. And they've been friends like since forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't even think John Williams is uh, even aware. I think he's like a music generator machine that doesn't even. Well, he probably knows. I mean,
He's got the scar behind his
some,
ear, like you do.
yeah, something. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a romantic. I want to think that he doesn't know shit. He doesn't know anything. I really hope he doesn't. Yeah,
I mean,
he's
I'm
done.
assuming a
He's
lot
done
of
the.
people don't. I mean, I bet you could be in that world and not know anything. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, definitely, man. I mean, the level of his work is so incredible. It's like mind blowing the way he like arranges, composes and arranges the music by hand with a pencil. So he's like his whole life is like just just supplying the demand for storytelling. Be it Harry Potter, he's done the Harry Potter theme. He's done like everything you can
Yeah.
think of. He's written it. He's like a genius in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, some people
Um.
just have that, you know. Like to some extent,
Yeah.
you I mean, you definitely have that. There was this guy, we went to this jazz show this weekend, and it was like a event that was a fundraiser for veterans, and
Okay.
because there's like a whole month apparently here. I think it's just in the U.S. obviously, because it's, yeah, I mean, it's for
Yeah.
U.S. veterans, but it's like a whole month where they encourage veterans to do art. Right? It's called AVA, and so we were at this jazz club for this event that was a fundraiser for it, and there's this guy sitting in front of us, and it's like a dark club where they're playing these jazz tunes, but this guy has this giant sketchbook, and he
Mhm.
was a veteran, and he's got a giant sketchbook, and the whole show he's just his hand is just going everywhere, and the way his hand is
Yeah.
drawing, he looks like the way a jazz player plays, which is just so fluid and just so like,
Yeah.
like not even thinking about it. And so at the end of the show, we like asked him if we could buy this picture off of him, and he said yeah, and it was incredible. And some people just have that where it's almost like they're not even conscious of what they're doing, right? Like they
Mhm.
like it just comes so naturally. And I've talked about
Yeah.
that with people before where with certain things, like for you with music, for honestly for me with music to some extent because like I listen by hearing, like some people can listen by hearing versus and just know where to go versus other people need to kind of like work towards it. And with everything that you do, with every challenge that you take up, whether it's like sports or music or anything, to some people it's just so natural, and then to other people they have to work harder. But it's a balance because for the people who it's more natural to, it can be harder to push yourself to work hard, right? Because like it can, like for me, for example, if I when I was playing like guitar, I had a harder time practicing long enough to learn how to like shred on a guitar because
Mm.
I was already so comfortable with it. And I just kind of was like, I'm pretty good. I'm good enough at this. I don't really want like, and so like there's an element of like where if it doesn't come natural to you, you kind of have the benefit of like saying, I have to work extremely hard at this. Like I would play with people who couldn't hear music, right? So I would play like I there was this one guy I played guitar with when I was in a band, and he couldn't hear it. So like
Mhm.
if we were trying to play a song, and I would need to like teach him by showing him the notes, and but he could shred on a guitar way better than me. So it's just fascinating because like there's that gap in everything you do, and like the
Mhm.
John Williams of the world, they just have that, right? They kind of have both, I guess. I guess they're so good at it, but also so driven to it that they practice as hard as their talent is, I guess you could
Mhm.
say. And yeah, it's interesting too because some of them, like Schizo brings up Hans Zimmer, and
Yeah, yeah,
some
and
of
Danny
them
Elfman. Yeah.
are so accessible too. Like Hans Zimmer makes that kind of music like extremely cool and like makes you like the way that he does it with some of the movies that he's done it in is just so fascinating. It's just like
Yeah.
it's not Beethoven-ish, I guess, for to some extent, where it's not
Mhm.
like you have to be a virtuoso to even play it. Um,
Mhm.
like the people who are like really good at that kind of thing, at anything that they do, make it incredible, but also simple. Like
Mhm.
simple enough to
Mhm.
consume. And that's kind of why it's so interesting that you're in pop, because your songs are really complex, but they don't feel complex. Like they don't feel overwhelming, like when you're listening to it, not when you're
Mhm.
playing it. Like when I picked up the guitar and tried learning Walk of One, I was like I was shocked at how like I just wasn't expect, even though it is a very layered song, right? It is a very big,
Mhm.
huge song. It's
Mhm.
just interesting how even on a pop song that's not super like an orchestral type of thing, you can make it when you have your level of skill, right? You can make it you you can put your fingerprint on it to the point where it is complex, but it isn't at the same time, or it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it is. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I just rambled about like I tried making sense
No,
there,
no,
but
it's spot on. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's spot on. That's the result. But um, yeah, I don't know. That's one of the only things I don't have an answer for is how can I make it sound pop sounding? It's just I just make it the way I want to hear it.
yeah,
Like I'm very quickly switching perspectives all the time when I'm doing something. It's like very quickly acting as a producer and at the same time a listener. It's like, okay, would I want to listen to this? It's like, yeah, okay, it's good.
Yeah,
So
dude, Schizo brought up Polyphia. Polyphia is like I think before Schizo joined the chat, I think I shared one of their videos in the chat
oh yeah,
of that song. I don't know if it was Goat. They have a song called
yeah,
Goat, right?
GOAT, I think
I
maybe. I
think
didn't see
that's the
which one you
one.
shared, but yeah, yeah, that
And
blew me
like
away when it first came out. I was like, what?
so I saw a
Yeah.
how-to like not a how-to, but like a in the making video of that song, and they were saying that the way that they make it is on a computer, and they try
Yeah.
to make something that is so like that they think would be impossible to play on guitar, and then they learn
Hmm.
how to play it on guitar. And so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and when you watch them playing it live, because I've seen them live actually, and it's just unreal. I mean, the
Hmm. Yeah, I've
it's
seen that
so
one video.
complex on it's so complex, but they're also like so they all have to be so in sync. Like even the drums are just like crazy in sync with the bass and everything. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Hmm.
bands like Polyphia are just nuts, nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age where you have technology to assist what you couldn't do earlier, like I mean, bands like Polyphia didn't exist before, not because people didn't have the skill to play, or that the producers, yeah, I mean, actually the producers wouldn't be able to produce that level of music. But it's also the assistance of the computer that you can map out like really complex things that you want to express. I've noticed this like even like back, oh goodness me, like 15 years ago when Meshuggah, do you know the band Meshuggah? It's like a Swedish kind of metal band.
I think so.
That band
Sounds
really
kind of familiar.
blew me away, yeah, because the whole thing that they mapped out their songs on computers with really complicated like drumming and riffs, which are they'll blow you away. It's like Morse code basically. It's like what's actually going on, It's like this really long, complex pattern that repeats over how many bars.
Yeah.
And in the past, the only people that would do that are classically trained people that would write it down in paper and then map it out and be like, aha. But it was never done by rock bands. Like rock bands were all about just like and just beers and shit.
Yeah.
So I think
Beers and
technology
riffs.
has kind of yeah. Technology has helped out all these creatives to map out things and have access to. I think technology is pretty awesome when it's used for art. It's like really, it's been so helpful. I mean, granted, the whole existence of it is super gravelly, but how you can use it to do stuff is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
mean, in your case, you like maximized it. I mean, like you've maximized it to a point that's kind of nuts.
yeah,
And so, do you think that so like we kind of talked about, we got maybe a new track coming out in a week or two, and then
yeah.
that a cappella version. What are the chances that you make it to the Bertaria Festival next year? Next year, is that possible? Is that even? Can you even travel outside of into the U.S.? I think you can now, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can go. You can go anywhere except for Russia at the moment.
That's the new thing, the new
Yeah, yeah,
narrative.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I can't. I'm not quite sure if they like require you to have like some kind of negative result
Yeah,
when arriving there, or when going to the airport, or like when coming back again. I'm really not sure. I haven't traveled in ages. I'm only locally, so I wouldn't know. So God willing, if the narrative kind of stays the way it is now, I think the answer is yes, man. Yeah, yeah. I think I
I
can.
just want everyone to know. I just got him to promise. I just got Olive Tree to promise 100% that he's coming to the festival. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Brandon Bonanza's in the house.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he
Um,
is.
but yeah, no, the Coronu is only in Russia now. You only can't go. You can't do business with Russia or go there because Coronu. It's the Coronu. It's
I'll
only.
tell all of this. Yeah, yeah. The whole
Oh
Corona,
yeah.
man. Yeah, it's so stupid in so many ways, man. I mean,
I think it's done. I think it's over. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of hard to know when something ends. For me, it's tough because I was in third grade when like 9/11 happened, and that was the last, probably thing of that magnitude that really kind of shaped the world, I guess you could say. And so I don't know. This is my first time. Like this is my first time going through something like that, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to pretend like I know what's going to happen. I'm not really good at predicting things, I found. Um, but it seems like it's pretty much over, especially because um, you've got people coming out with things that are not you can't kind of come back from, like when they're saying
Mhm.
in like a court that it doesn't stop transmission or whatever. It's just certain things that kind of that was the goal, right? Was to sell those things, and so now that that's kind of done,
Yeah.
I just think it's done.
I think it's done. I mean, I feel that it's done, but because I check online for flights, because I'm trying to map out certain trips I want to do within Europe, and for some of the countries, this little pop-up thing comes up and says like information. This country, this destination has certain COVID-19 protocols that have to be adhered to and things like that. Click here for more information. And then
Yeah.
some other countries don't have it. So I think they're kind of feeling their way through and milking the cow as much as possible in certain areas. So yeah, for the States, it might be actually easier. Just get on a plane, go to New York, and then from New York elsewhere. Yeah, across the pond, really.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. It's kind of like the thing is that's interesting, that's tough about it is that like if I wanted to go to Greece, it's the kind of thing I'd have to plan like a year out. But then at the same
Hmm.
time, the thing that made traveling so crazy during Ronu, especially a place like that, like I had a friend who got married in like another country or whatever, and you have to plan it really far out, but it can things were changing all the time. So
Yeah.
so it's a really big risk is the thing because like you could if you plan today for next year, you'd save a lot more money on the trip, but
Hmm.
you'd be risking that next year the situation could be entirely different. So, but now, there's not as much risk of that. But if you were to have like, come for the last festival, for example, it had probably
Hmm.
been a lot harder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully that works. Have you heard much from people about it? What was your? Did you hear from Anchor Bear? Did he tell you anything about? Do you talk to him at all or no?
Not really. I mean, it's a bit difficult to communicate with many people from the States because,
Yeah.
like, we're in completely different time zones. And sometimes I'll send him a message and but we've never spoken. We've never, like, done a call or anything. But I do understand. Like, at first I was like, why doesn't he want to chat with me? Because I'm the new guy,
Yeah.
supposedly. Well, I was when I first, like, joined the whole community. But then I realized, dude, man, all of my friends that have children, they're like super busy nonstop and they hardly get any sleep. And there's this OliveTreeBear guy sending messages and he's trying to reply and everything. So we haven't gotten around to it. But I've heard interviews. I've heard like Sharon Bear has shared. She always overshares plenty of stuff. Yeah, I mean, and other bears from the group. I've seen so much footage, and I'm like, must be nice.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. I just talked to Brandon and Sharon. I was on over Sharon. I talked to them a week
yeah,
ago,
yeah,
and so that episode's
yeah.
probably going
I
to come
saw
out. And
them. Really cool.
I was asking them about it.
Oh no, yeah, 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 yeah.
So I think that'll be out like next week or something, or the week after.
Hopefully, yeah, yeah.
But they're awesome, dude. Oh my god, it was like I think we
It's
talked
a
for
great
like
show,
I think we
man. You
talked for
guys are
like two
crushing
and
it.
a
Yeah,
half hours or something. Like I don't even know,
really.
some really long time, and it just felt like it. I don't know. It didn't feel like we were talking that long at all. It was like, oh, the once lost this year. What's up? The once lost is the guy who's new to the chat. They just made a
Oh,
song
cool, cool.
with they just made a song with Anchor Bear, right? And I was gonna ask like I was kind of curious like how we had gotten to this point without collaborating with Anchor Bear, but I guess it's because like you guys are both producers, so it's, I mean, like maybe he would do like a vocal track or something, but I guess it's like two
Uh,
people like if you would look to like Woodshop to play a guitar, or you would look to
yeah,
someone to do something specific, Schizo to rap or something. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to look to another producer for something when you're a producer is, I guess, not as automatic. I guess you could say.
I guess. Oh, I just had an idea. I've never thought of this before, but
Yeah,
maybe I'll ask him to send me the lead vocal of one of his tracks, and I can do a remix of it.
that would be
That could
cool.
be a thing. Like my take on Onward to Bertaria, or my take on some other track, and um, just the channel of his voice, just that, nothing else, just the acapella.
His
That'd be
voice,
interesting.
or his song. My favorite song by him is that newest one he came out with.
Oh, I forget the name.
People
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can depend on or whatever. I don't know if that's the name of it, but it could. It's like I got friends,
Yeah.
I got family, I got fresh food. It's
Hmm.
so catchy. Oh my god! But
Yeah,
I
man.
hope they
It's
come
good.
out with like, and I think they're planning on doing this. I don't know if you heard anything, but I think they're planning on
Hmm.
coming out with a documentary for the festival, or at least like maybe a video of the set. Does anyone in the chat know
Hmm.
about that? If they're gonna come out with a video of the set, I was really hoping that they would have that kind of thing, so we
Yeah.
could see his set.
Maybe, maybe. The funny thing is, I'm in touch with the guys from Unbearables, and they tell me stuff, and then they tell me not to say certain things. Like, don't mention this, don't mention that. So I'll just pretend I know nothing at this point because I don't remember which ones I can admit to and which ones are, like secretive. I don't know. I'm guessing they're getting up to speed on so many things, man, and they're getting so creative that Unbearables Media's like, I don't know, by this time next year, especially after the next like big meetup gathering thing, festival, and as the both of us said, like when we were on the phone the other day, or like a couple of weeks ago, the next one I'm sure is going to be like quadruple the size in magnitude and in hype and in energy, because the first one,
Yeah,
I heard Ryan Bear saying the crowd were trying to feel out who's who. Like he was on stage for a couple of tracks and they didn't even realize who he was.
yeah.
So,
No,
I
yeah,
mean, the
and I feel
next
like
one is
next
going
year would be perfect. Is like I don't know, like I've performed live before. I love performing live. I'm like the opposite of you, where I think the live is so much more fun. Like it's more fun to me,
to, yeah,
and I've got so many. I mean, I'm gonna get the crowd into it. I'm so pumped. I dream of opportunities like that. I mean, it's like, oh god, I'm so excited. I mean, what can you even imagine? I can't even imagine having 50 bears in front of me and like singing the sea shanty. It's gonna be the most epic thing ever. Like, and
yeah,
oh god, I just have so many plans for that.
yeah, yeah.
I had plans for this year's one, but it just
Hmm.
like the timing just did not work at all. They contacted me like a month or two before asking if it would be possible, and I was just like, ugh. I it would have been if it was like if I had heard a little while before, and I knew that it was like a thing in the future, but I didn't know it was going to be a big thing. I
Hmm.
just thought maybe it was like people from Missouri. I know they
Yeah,
said
yeah.
national festival, but I didn't really perceive it. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking when I first saw it, but yeah, I feel like the next one's going to be lit. Brandon
I
should
mean,
speak. Brandon said he'd love to speak at an event. Brandon, you should go to next
yeah, I
year's,
mean,
but
he's very gifted
I want to
and
see
funny.
Brandon do stand up. Like you could do a
Yeah, me
speaking
too.
thing too, but I really want to see you do stand up because you're funny. Like in our talk, even like you had me going a few times, and he had this joke that was just shared in when he shared the video of Sharon or of Owen reading his letter, and he had this joke that was like life is like going from A to Z, and then I mean I'm not going to deliver it good, okay, Brandon, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
like life is like a journey from A to Z, and it's really easy to get hung up on the J. It's so funny, but yeah, no, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would be really happy to deliver in front of a crowd. The Bears. I
Yeah,
mean, what I really didn't like in the past is like many of the tracks that had to be included in sets were not necessarily something that I would want to get people moving,
Yeah.
like some of the tracks were like, just move your body, everybody. It's like, I wasn't super proud of that. Not proud, but I wasn't happy to deliver that kind of thing. But I mean, in next year's fest, I'll be like super pumped. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine the kind of extended versions and extra solos and get Joe Gagan on board and get all these people on board. And by that time, we'll have even more tracks. It'll be like, it could be like a wonderful thing.
Yeah, the
I'm
timing would be
super
perfect. I was
excited.
actually kind of envisioning that where we would like it would make a lot of sense probably to play My Tribe last and then to add this just
Hmm.
crazy ending like solo to it or something, just some crazy outro. Because it kind of cuts off a little fast the way it is now. But if you were playing that last, you just have some big ass rock ending or something. I don't know. I have so many ideas, and we'll talk more. We'll talk more about those ideas. I noticed Schizo said, "Why the delay? Why not release it the same day?" I think you're talking about his new
Which one?
Olive Tree's newest song. I think
Oh,
because we just said that you're going to release a new song. So that this talk between us is just for my channel. I just wanted to do it, honestly.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um this is
No, it's all good.
one, like I said at the beginning, kind of a opportunity for me to just highlight somebody who's super good at what they do creatively, um, and kind of get pick his brain. But also, it just kind of happened to work out with the timing because of the fact that uh, that Olive Tree would be kind of releasing some stuff up and coming. Oh, me and Oversharon.
Hmm.
Uh, what? Why the delay? Oh, why the delay? Oh, because they just do that. They don't. Brandon does live stream episodes, but with Oversharon, they record it beforehand, and so the week that we recorded it, um, they were recording a couple different episodes, and I was like the third person to record, so they stagger it like weekly. That's why it was delayed. Um, yeah, so let's talk. We'll wrap up here in a little bit. I don't want to take too much
Hmm.
of your time. I know you're a busy man. But when it came to, uh, you said that you were in music and you were kind of seeing the Babylon. Remind me when you came to the Bears first. Like, what was kind of the nexus of that? Did you just kind of find Owen funny, and that's kind of what brought you there?
I didn't even know who Owen Benjamin was. I didn't.
Oh, really?
He wasn't really on my radar. I mean, when I first, um, I'll tell you the whole thing is quite interesting actually. I've always been inquisitive. I've always wondered, you know, even as a young child, I was like, how come in every single country of the world, traffic lights are green and red? And how come red means stop? And who arranged it? I was always full of questions. It's like, how come everything? And then gradually I realized what was going on in the world. It's like, dude, we're controlled by aliens, and aliens have come down and they have this secret technology and they're like manipulating somehow manipulating governments. And I'm like, and then eventually I went off that phase. It's like, yeah, no, probably something else is going on.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's the grabblers. They're actually doing everything with their little, you know, weird black clothes and symbols and this and that and currencies and this and that. They're doing it all. And I'm like,
Was your Kanye phase?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm like, it still doesn't answer all my questions because I could feel that there's something spiritual underlying the whole thing. And at the same time, like I was like, oh well, back to porn and drinking, I suppose. And so at some point, I was looking into the flat Earth and mud flood theories, and I came across Berserker Bear,
Yeah.
and I subscribed to his channel. And I sometimes even commented because he mentioned things about Greece, and I commented. And at some point, I realized that he had other people in the chat, and they were like, "So and so bear." I'm like, "How come there's a berserker bear?" And like, he gave the wrench to someone that has a bear. I mean, how gay is that? He's like, "What do you mean bear?"
I
You
find that
know?
so fascinating that you found the Bears through the Bears. but not through Owen. That's so interesting. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he talked about I mean, this was I assume this was a joke, but he said I mean, it was a joke, but he said he made this joke one time where he said that one this is how secret societies are formed or something. Like
yeah, yeah,
we had an inside joke maybe about it was like an inside joke. One of the things that we do that's an inside joke. I don't even know. Maybe, oh, must be nice or something. I don't know. One of the phrases that he says, and he's like people saying these phrases without any context is how secret societies are formed, and it's so funny
yeah,
because you in your case like the society was secret, and then you got you found out who the ringleader of the secret society was later, but it's just so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. But I mean, that's the interesting thing. I don't remember if I spoke, if Dustin Berserker Bear, who does like awesome research on, many topics, but like he's right, really milking the whole alternate history, alternate version of history at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember if he told me or someone else in the chat told me. Someone told me it's like Owen Benjamin is the big bear and we're the bears because we are. He's a comedian and we're like followers of him. And I'm like, what has history got to do with a comedian? It's like, who is this? Who is this comedian? So back then there wasn't so much censorship. He was like on D Live and things like that. So I think the first or second video I ever saw was his realization of the flat Earth. Yeah, because I came from a flat Earth background and I was like really interested to see, well, not flat Earth necessarily, but like an explanation to our cosmology, which is being challenged more and more and more and more
Yeah.
as of lately, even from various communities. Um, so I think one of my first videos was him. I don't know if it was live, but he was like really, his brain was like, you could see it in his eyes. He was like freaking out. It's like, what? The world is not a globe. you know, he,
Yeah.
you could see it in his eyes. He was like, no, 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 it can't be. And the next video answered my question about what I was talking about before, about aliens and the possibility that it's someone else controlling, and the possibility that maybe it's hyperdimensional aliens and not, extraterrestrial, and maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And he pointed out at some point that it's the lack of morality is giving grounds for all this manipulation and control in the world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter where it's from. It doesn't matter if we're talking about demons or we're talking about extra terra or we're talking about flat or round earth or square or cube. It's the lack of morality is giving ground to all of this. And I'm like, huh. And then I remembered all my childish moments of seeing grown-ups act in a certain way where they've kind of um, bent their own morality to reach that level. And I'm like, yeah, but that feels like very sly and very, it feels like very gravelly. Why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to keep onto that? And then when I was a teenager and like discovering sex, I suppose that's when it just slapped me in the face that, if you want to move on in this world and be more in the world and more modern, you have to kind of, your morality has to kind of become more elastic. And then the whole thing hit me in the head, like the whole industry of filth and corruption and everything. It really hit me in the face. It's like, dude, it's me. I'm feeding this thing.
Yeah.
My unique perspective on this earth is kind of in this realm or whatever is like feeding it. It's like every click, everything I do, if it wasn't for us, if we weren't here, if we didn't inhabit the land at all, it wouldn't happen. So it's it's not the others necessarily. It's the attention we give it, whatever it is. It might be the whole thing might be a total scam. It might be like a very basic mind parasite that
Yeah.
had to gradually groom us into this position in this day and age to even get the results it wants.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean
it's kind of
it's
really
like there's
cool.
this
Yeah.
become this like mentality that and I think it's like people maybe get convinced of it because of the way that media is presented, and like because media is presented as if it's from an authority of
Hmm.
some kind. Yeah, because it's presented as if it's from an authority of some kind, it makes people think that we know everything, like that everything's been figured out. And so, even if, like, no matter what you think about the earth, right?
Hmm.
You we just the only reason why thinking it's flat or not is a problem is
This is, yeah.
because people assume that we know everything, right? I mean, we just don't. So, so like, and I think that he did a good job of when one of the best like things he says, I think, is like, I might be wrong, but I'm not lying,
Yeah.
and there's humility in that. And Schizo said that we're like an online comedy club, and I know I talked to Brandon about this, and Sharon, that I think the thing that brings us into this online comedy club, and the reason why we all have a good sense of humor, is because we just like, and this is going to sound like something that comes from the mouth of someone who doesn't have humility, but we have a lot of humility. Like, we're able to laugh at ourselves. I think that's the
Hmm.
difference. Everybody that's been weeded out of the Bears just it refuses to laugh at themselves. If he says something that is a joke about their community, about something about them, then they lose their mind and act like it's the end of the world, right? Like, I think I gave Brandon the example that Owen had gone off on the Trinity for a while. And,
Hmm.
I believe in the Trinity, but I can accept, like, it. I don't get upset. I don't feel like he's attacking me if he makes a joke about the fact that it's complex, because it is complex, right? And so, yeah, I just think that
Yeah.
people around us are more able to laugh at themselves, whereas you had a lot of people with the Trinity, especially, who were just like, you can't make jokes about that. And when he and when he the way he is with everything, right? The way Owen is with everything is if you say you can't joke about it, he's going to go twice as hard. And they hear
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and they think,
Hilarious.
so he goes twice as hard, and they hear it and they think he's blaspheming the Trinity, but he's not really mocking the Trinity as far as I see it. He's mocking them, right? The reason why saying, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I'm on YouTube, but the reason why saying the N word to me was funny,
Hmm.
was ever funny, is because of the people who get upset by it, like, who pretend like they're gonna die because you said it, not because of, you're trying to put black people down. It's funny because of the reaction of the people who can't handle it, and if they would just stop reacting like that, you'd probably not even care to say it, right? It's kind of like with
Yeah.
Irish people and the word Mick today. Like, Mick is like the equivalent to an Irish person of the N word, and you wouldn't, because they don't even care, right? If you call someone, like, maybe a few Irish people would want to like throw their beer on the ground and try to put up their dukes with you, but like, most of them don't care, and so people don't really care to say it. And it's just, you know that's the thing that I appreciate so much about him and the
Hmm.
community that he's built, is that it's just a group of people who all have that kind of humility mentality, I guess, and humor. Because, like Schizo said, it's just a comedy club. I mean, we spend most of the time just joking about stuff, and then the
Yeah.
gravy is just, there's no, in this community at least, um, there's no, I don't know if the risk is the right word. There's no, like, you can say anything, and
Yeah, yeah.
people understand that, no matter how stupid it is, you're just spitballing most, and it
We're not
helps, and it
plotting or
helps.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
helps to bounce ideas off of people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know through your channel how much you explore cosmology and these subjects. I'm really not sure because I have to catch up with the rest of your videos. But I mean,
Yeah, not really at all. I mean, the thing is about cosmology, like, well, I explore like
For
philosophy, I
example, yeah,
guess, like philosophy.
yeah,
So, like, for example, if one of the things I like about Jim Bob's channel, right, is that Jim Bob
hmm
does a really good job of saying if we don't agree on at least a base set worldview, then we can't debate anything, right? I can't talk about um I like he'll say like you can't talk about you can't debate transgenderism with a person who thinks that we all have our own truth
hmm
because if we all have our own truth then you can't tell me I'm wrong about transgenderism. So like those kind of philosophical ideas as they relate to things that I am doing is kind of what I talk about. So like COVID is a big one for me because it's my job professionally is as a health data statistician. So understanding morbidity and mortality is my job. So COVID naturally to me was a super interesting topic, and because it's been the 9/11 of our time has been something that has changed the way I see the world. I mean everything from like how intelligent the average person is to you know how society functions. And so I kind of talk through things in that lens because I also wrote a book about it.
hmm
But yeah, cosmology. Uh, like I think I generally like agree that there. I, Owen talking, for example, about the shape of the Earth and stuff is the type of thing that is very fascinating to me. That
hmm
I kind of defer to other people on because it's not like the first thing I'm going to research, right? It's not like the thing that gets me personally like, wow, I have to get to the bottom of this. I
yeah, yeah,
I agree. I totally agree with the points that the people who talk about it like him and other people make where it's like how is it that I can like see Seattle from across the water if the Earth is like 8 meters or 8 miles or whatever squared, right, or whatever the curve is.
square, yeah.
Like there's things like that where I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And then I saw another. There was this documentary, and then I'll stop rambling. But there's this documentary on
No, no,
Netflix
yeah, yeah.
about this guy who climbs ice mountains, right? Like really ice, like
Mhm.
one of these like deadly free climbers, right? And he actually, I mean, he literally died doing it. That's like the end of the documentary. Spoiler alert. But he climbs these giant mountains, and there was this one video where he's at the summit of this huge mountain, and he's got the camera and he's just panning it around. And this guy's at like I think it might have been Everest. I don't know for sure, but it might have been Everest, where it's just the highest possible mountain, and he's panning the camera around, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, that looks awfully flat to me. I mean, like if you're that high up, you would think that you would see like things fall off, right?
Yeah.
Like more easily, but they
Mhm.
don't. They just keep going like forever. Because he clearly is seeing very many miles since he's at the top of this mountain. Um, but yeah, I mean that stuff is interesting to me though. I mean I appreciate the people who talk about it, and Jim Bob talks a lot about the space stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. No, the only reason I brought it up is like because maybe the your listeners might, I mean, it takes many people by surprise, but I had this really interesting chat over the summer and during fall, like in the past months, just doing a very simple thing of showing what the lunar module looks like,
yeah.
just that, hey, pick up your phone and just Google lunar module in images and just have a look. And just, I'm not going to say anything, just tell me what you feel about it. It's a
What?
good
Well,
starting point,
like that car, like that like
The car and the actual module as well, the whole thing, the lander,
with the
the whole
tinfoil,
thing.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just an aluminum tent, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many people who are fully invested in this kind of cosmology
Yeah,
and
yeah,
these people exploring all these, you know, uh, satellites of Earth and planets and all these things, really invested in Mars and everything. And just go back and see how it all started. It's like this literally went to the moon and back, with three grown men inside and oxygen tanks and
yeah.
propulsion systems and everything. If
No,
you
yeah, it's
start with that,
absurd.
then
I think for me,
Yeah, just stuff like that.
one of the craziest things was simply hearing that one engineer at NASA talk, like just say words. What was his name? The one
Oh
with
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
bald guy with the glasses who's like, "We destroyed the technology, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
painful process to build up the." I'm just
Oh,
like
oh,
that guy. How do you? All
yeah,
right, if I'm trying to sell that we went to the moon, of all the people in the whole world
yeah,
to pick to represent that, him, like, and you know that to me, like the only explanation for that is they felt like they probably needed someone they can control, I guess, to, you know, someone that would never later on be Don Pettit, yeah, schizo. That someone
yeah,
who later on would never blow the whistle because he's so like autistic or whatever the word, whatever he is. I don't know. I guess that would be more like brain dead or something. I don't know that guy. But just hearing him talk, I'm just like, you're gonna tell me that him and the drunk guy named Buzz went to the moon? Like, like there's just come on, like, but
yeah.
it's all related too because you know, like you said, um, it's a cosmology for those people, and so when you're when they suddenly start telling you, you know, you're not welcome. This is kind of how I would talk about it on my channel, I guess. But I mean, you could talk about it however you want. But you know, if I was just doing a video myself, right, where it is relevant because the people who think that way are the ones who kicked you out of the store, who
Yeah.
think they can control the trajectory of a microscope of a submicroscopic particle if it even exists. They think
Hmm.
they think they can control that on a global scale, and that comes from the same cosmology like you're talking about of people
Yeah.
who think we can, you know, conquer the universe, and it's absurd.
Yeah.
Like it's just their worldview. You know, they for the past that kind of person for the past decades has mocked the Christian, right? Has mocked the religious person and called them stupid and closed minded. And when you really
Hmm.
dissect what they believe in every area, whether it's space or here on Earth or whatever, like they're crazy, you know, and it's just it's fascinating to me, like in because like you said, it's in all areas that their mentality kind of penetrates.
Yeah, man. It's an interesting topic. For me, it's like a stepping stone. You know, challenging cosmology is like a stepping stone. I'm not going to judge people who are kind of still stuck and they're like,
Yeah,
but maybe they need more time to contemplate and maybe find their own path. But I mean, for me, it's just a stepping stone because I mean, at the end of the day, all you have is yourself, is your own path. So it's good to challenge any kind of thing. It's quite healthy, actually. It's a sign of intelligence, I suppose.
yeah.
But I mean,
I don't really. It doesn't bother me what people believe. It
yeah,
just bothers me when they're like, um, I, how do I put this? It doesn't bother me when they don't. It doesn't even bother me when you try to convince them of something and you fail because that means you failed at convincing
hmm,
them, right? But
hmm,
like, what bothers me is when they try to like enforce it on you or call you
hmm,
dumb for thinking it, like, you know, especially on topics that they don't investigate very much because most of the time they don't, and if they did, they would have saw Don Pettit talk and they'd have been like, uh, you know,
yeah,
but
yeah. I was thinking something as you were speaking. You know this e-cigarette, the electronic cigarette I have, and
yeah,
I vape. When the whole Rona started, we were outdoors because it was like more safe than being indoors. And you know, I was telling friends of mine that, hey, check this out. So I took a puff and I blew it, and it had a slight breeze, and like the breeze, you could see the puff of smoke traveling like for
yeah,
hundreds of feet, and it's like, well, you know, if they say, according to the narrative, that outdoors you're not safe at all because this is like loaded with the stuff, the deadly stuff from coming through my lungs, and you know, from the Woo whatever lab, and it's it's crossing the street at the moment, and it's traveling
It's
through all the
on
exterior
a
spaces
journey.
which are supposed to be safe. And people said, "Yeah, it doesn't work like that." I said, "Look, you can see it.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. The
My
particles are traveling at the moment. You know,
my ass it
it's
doesn't. Are you
physics. You can see
crazy?
it. You know." So
No, yeah, like it doesn't work like that. Fuck you, it doesn't
yeah,
work
it
like that.
doesn't
Are
work.
you
Yeah,
kidding me? Like I remember I saw like I was in like Tennessee and I was in an Uber and I was driving past this hospital and these nurses come out with their masks on outside and they're pulling them down to smoke a cigarette and they're handing this like they're smoking their cigarette and
yeah,
I'm like if you actually believe that kind of stuff then cigarettes should be illegal because like you said your whole puff of breath is just flew everywhere and it's just going all over the place.
yeah,
You would think that that would be like something to ban is smoking a cigarette in public, but
yeah, yeah.
there was none of that. I mean, it was purposefully not logical. So that's kind of the hard that you want to like convince, oh, hey, Joe Gagan is in the house. We were just
Oh,
talking about
legend.
um getting you to do a big rock guitar ending at the festival next year, Joe Gagan. But yeah, no. It's it's like fascinating because you try to be logical about it. You try to say, well, why would you wear three masks? Why don't doctors wear masks outside all the time? Why did they never wear masks outside? If there's no harm to wearing a
Hmm.
mask and it just helps, why didn't you always do it, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
but the point isn't to be logical, so it's kind of hard. But it but
yeah,
but that's like you said about the cosmology. It's just honestly it's become such a relief to me to have the Bears just because of that. Just because of that. Because
yeah, yeah.
if I didn't have people who saw it, I think that I'd still be watching Ben Shapiro. you know, like where or just anybody who's like, come on, seriously, guys, are we seriously going there? And for us, we don't really even have to do that because we just we're building our own thing, like our own society. Like we don't even. I mean, it's like a separate. It's as separate to me as like Africa. What they do, the way that these
Yeah,
people act now. It's just something that's happening somewhere else,
yeah.
and that's a big relief. But yeah, we're almost at 2 hours, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know Joe Gagan's here, so we'll just say
Yeah.
again that Olive Tree's got some new stuff coming out probably soon. New song and an a cappella version of the Fool's Choir, which is going to be awesome. And it's really good to have you
When should
back.
we do this?
When should we do
When
it?
shall we? Yeah, I mean, Sunday, a good day. What?
Yeah, I mean, I think you were doing the releases on Sundays before, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's pretty good. And
yeah. And then
because
we've got the brand new.
everybody was pretty available to join those kind of Sunday things when they were happening. I think I don't know if
I
there would be
think
a better
so. Yeah,
time.
yeah, I think so. And it only lasts a few minutes, so it's not like a huge commitment. It's just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
it's
So
a
I think
nice
that would
get
be cool.
together. It's a small get together, and then once the song is over, you kind of quickly press pause so you don't kind of skip to the next track. And it's like, oh, I'm still here, you know. And it's kind of just a few minutes of with the crowd, and I want to hear what they say about your voice and about the layering of the vocals we did. So like the a cappella will be an interesting thing to listen to, like the whole vocal arrangement. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna be fun.
yeah, and it's also cool because now the chat on Telegram is like 20 something people, so it's like fun just being able to kind of talk for the rest of the day
Yeah,
after about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you already have that one finished, right? So yeah, I mean, I guess the goal would be to release
That's
that
it.
on
Yeah,
Sunday.
it's one of the easy solutions for me. And like the next one, I'll just make a plain. For once in my life, I'll make a plain video. I won't go like
Yeah.
mental with editing and everything. I'm not. I can't get away with it. I mean, it's worth every song. Most of the tracks are really worth the additional like
Yeah,
super video editing, but it was never my intention to. It was only my intention to do it for the sea shanty, and that was it. Like, okay, I'm gonna go like crazy like editing and not to show off my skills, but just to fit everything into the storytelling, you know.
yeah,
But then I committed to just making all these elaborate videos. Yeah, but this is probably going to be a basic one for the next track coming out, and then yeah, it would be nice to have more creative people on board. Like the one with hand drawn bear, that was pretty cool. Like
that
half,
was.
literally like a minute and a half was just like hand drawn bears process of starting from scratch,
Yeah.
drawing a painting. Yeah. So if we can get more creative people, that'd be, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I
It
think it's
adds the
always
whole energy as
been
well.
it's always the video part's always been the challenge. Because it's like
Yeah.
you put in so much time into the song itself
Hmm.
that it's just a lot. But with the bear ones, it makes sense. It made sense, right? Like you said, to
Hmm.
have like my tribe
Yeah.
and the sea shanty to have more of that big footage type of thing. But but yeah, with the regular tracks, like with just tracks that we're putting out that are just cool tracks, it'd definitely be better to have it to be just a super easy, a lot easier videos that are not as complex, and it would just make the process probably a lot better. Because as much as from the beginning, like I said, kind of in the beginning, um, it was always hard to get people involved before we started coming out with tracks.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
it's gotten a lot easier to get people involved musically. But the video
Hmm.
part, I thought I could have swore like at the time, that there would because there's a lot of bears that make videos, right? There's a lot of bears that do like
Hmm.
cartoons and I honestly was seeing before we started coming out with music, other than Anchor Bear, there really wasn't a
Hmm.
ton of bear music. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Now there's a lot, but what there was a lot of was cartoons and video makers. So I thought that that would be the easy part is to find people who'd want to make videos, but I guess it I guess it's a part of the challenge, and then it's also part of the challenge just to, you know, make the right video too. Like you want it to go with the song and stuff and um
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I suppose it becomes very demanding, but it doesn't have to be. I wouldn't
yeah.
even mind if someone took it on to do their own thing completely, but it's just that I've raised the bar so much. It's like, okay,
I'm just so good at it that it yeah.
I'm
You
just
really
so fucking
have.
good, man. But I reached out to Be Grateful Bear once, and we did a video call. He was like, "Dude, I want to be honest with you. It's like this takes up so much of my time, and I've got like." He's got his like lady and he's got his thing
Yeah.
going on, and even what he does is like, already draining energy and everything. But I mean, we'll get there somehow. Somehow, there's Crush and Bear who's like good in 3D, organic 3D modeling, like faces and really detailed
Yeah.
3D modeling. That could be a thing. That could be a thing, I suppose. But then you need people to animate it, to do the textures, lighting, editing. It's crazy. But anyway, any free time I have from now on, I feel more confident that I can, work on the videos as well to a certain extent. So
Yep.
yeah, we've got a pipeline of so many tracks. Like I don't even know the
So
number of
many.
them. I
Oh
have
my
to look.
god. So many like
Yeah,
good ones too.
yeah.
Like there's that I don't even there's one called Time to Explode, which I can say the name of it. No
Oh
one's gonna
yeah,
know anything. I love that song. Oh my god, that song is gonna be like you called it the show off song, and I agree. It's just like such a wild
yeah.
prog rock kind of track, and like there's a
It's
lot of like hard rock ones that are just my speed. I like love that kind of music.
it's. I mean, it's so groovy. It's like a mixture of I don't know, Dream Theater meets
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine. Or what?
No, yeah, I just said yeah, I agree. It is like that.
But it has a classical music intro with like the harp and pizzicato strings, and then it goes into you know even the first chorus is like so dreamy and everything. You don't know what to expect. It's like, oh, okay, this is a nice chorus, really like it's sort of a weird dreamscape, and then it just builds up to something which is goes mental. Yeah.
It does go
It's
mental at
gonna
the
be
end.
fun.
Brandon says, "Release them, release the
Yeah,
Kraken."
this one needs like a lot of
Yeah,
natural
that one needs
instruments.
more work.
It needs work, but it's a great demo though. It's a great
Yeah,
demo.
yeah. So we got a lot more coming. Again, we're almost at 2 hours. Let the people. I
Yeah.
mean, I have your little link here that's been scrolling by for a while, but I guess anything else you want to tell the people before we wrap?
No, I mean, we've known each other for a while. I'm really glad that you're doing your own thing on your channel. It's pretty cool. I mean, you're so because I mean, English is not my mother tongue. Like I speak mostly Greek, but you're so fluent, and I mean, because of your profession, and your authoring, you're in a very good place and with a very clear mind to discuss many topics. And just wish you all the best because it's a really cool idea. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, no, I just like figured that I see a lot of these people like Pat, like whether it's Pat Daly or Brandon or Owen or
yeah,
Vox Day, and they just kind of like I needed to just kind of do that, do what they do. I look up to those kind of people, and I needed to get myself kind of just talking about whatever. That's kind of what Vox does. He just
mhm,
kind of, and Owen and all of them. I mean, they just kind of talk about whatever, and it's cool connecting with people, especially in the chat, like Joe and Brandon and Schizo and Belizima and all these people. So it's just fun, and so sometimes you kind of you get better at it as you go, right? Like the first
mhm.
streams, I think back to when like Owen first started, and he's just like in a little room, and you know, you, video is not my first thing, so it's gonna take time to find my niche and stuff, right?
Yeah,
But it's fun. It's fun just chatting, and especially when you're chatting with talented people. I want to have like some obviously more bears. I'll probably have Brandon and Joe on at some point or something. Um,
oh yeah,
but there's some other people
yeah,
too, like some non-bears that I think bears would be cool to
hmm,
talk to. Like there's this one guy, his name's like the Critical Drinker on YouTube, and he does he kind of like he's from Ireland, and his like persona is that he like he like will mock modern movies like in as like acting as if he's drunk, like a drunk Irish guy or whatever.
oh,
and
really.
and so it's really
That's
funny.
interesting.
His channel's really funny, but and that's one thing. But he also releases he also is like an author who's released a bunch of books. So I like that he does both, and I want to have people who have done both and who have been kind of successful with it, and because I want to learn from those kind of people, and also um yeah, and just kind of help other people learn the same stuff too. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
it should be fun. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. I'm
anytime, man.
sorry, like I'm sorry the beginning was a little bit rough, but like I said, you were my guinea pig here
Yeah,
with
man. Yeah,
the
you'll figure it out.
live
Yeah.
stream, but it's going pretty good. So, all right, cool. Thank you for joining, everybody.
Thanks,
Olive
Will.
Tree, have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later, man. And I can't wait to hear see the new tracks released, and